So it struck me this morning when I was thinking about St. Agatha and all of the early martyrs, really, the ones that are in the Roman Martyrology and in the first Eucharistic prayer. And then I started thinking about other martyrs, and Thomas More came to mind. You know, we have in our mind sometimes this sort of heroic battle in martyrdom. And it is that, but it doesn't always play out that way. Thomas More lost his life and was called a martyr because he wouldn't sign a piece of paper. His whole life wasn't consumed with heroic combat against anti-Christian forces and antichrist and demonic dominions. He was asked to compromise his conscience in a way that went against the gospel, and he said no. They killed him for it. St. Agnes, is it Agnes or Agatha? I just need to check. Agatha. St. Agatha. She wouldn't compromise her virginity. She had consecrated herself to the Lord. She was offered wonderful worldly things. And when she said no, the mask, that veil of kindness of the world, was torn away from the one who wore it, and it turned vicious. And she had her breast cut off and dragged across broken shards of pottery, naked, not only to shame her, but to lacerate her flesh, which was the object of the lust of the emperor. It wasn't like this whole way. I mean, the poor girl was living in Sicily and living a happy life. Everything was hunky-dory. Just getting along fine, going to Mass every day, like so many of you. And then her reputation as a beautiful, intelligent girl makes it to the emperor, and he calls her up there to ask her about being a Christian, because he had made it illegal. And it was just a way to get her up there to see if she was as pretty as everybody said. And her life spiraled out of control from there. And she died. Living a martyr's life is not something that one trains for like a gladiator, and then one's whole life is consumed with that. But rather, it comes in opportunities to stay faithful when you're not looking for them. Training, yes, but not training for a stable, competitive lifestyle like a gladiator. But indeed, especially today, training in all of the little ways to simply live a good life, to know the direction to follow, and then to be aware when someone tries to get you to deviate and simply refuse. We wonder why, and then so many times, today we live these sort of white martyrdoms where little by little people pick away at us when we say no, we can't do that, I'm not going to do that because I'm a Christian. And nobody actually comes around and cuts our head off. It would just be easier if somebody just kind of came around. No, I'm not going to go to your wedding because it's a farce, it's a sham, it's fornication, I can't be a part of that. And then they just came by and said, fine, you won't come to our wedding, they cut your head off. Then you're done. You're in heaven, you have a red crown, it's wonderful, right? But no, it doesn't happen that way anymore. It's like this slow peeling back the Band-Aid sort of thing. And you're like, Jesus, can we just pull this off? And I could be done. But no, it's like one relationship after another is strained and almost sometimes broken because of the integrity of the gospel, because that's the most important thing. But what a blessed life to live opportunity after opportunity to testify to the Lord that your gospel is more important than any human relationship. And this is made all the more difficult a lot of times for women, this kind of martyrdom. Because the priority of society, the priority of relationship is so strong in the feminine heart. The idea of denying a person over a principle is a very difficult concept, typically, for women. Right? Men, it's much easier. Oh, them's the rules. You broke the rules. Get out. Or you're done. Don't come back until you've fixed that. Right? But what's the invitation that we have as Christians today to the martyrdom that so many went before us, suffered and endured and were glorified through, is one of a slow picking away. It's death by 1,000 cuts. To live in our society today can be just like that. The society cuts us, and the society is acidic, and it's sort of like having all kinds of paper cuts and then tripping and falling into a pile of salt. And it doesn't just end like a good old beheading, but you have to get up and do it again. You have to get up and keep being faithful. And our fidelity is small, but it's often. Unlike the singular acts of these heroic martyrs that we celebrate, we live daily little martyrdoms. Your children want you to do this thing that they, or even probably for some of you at this point, your grandchildren, they're living lives reflective and totally immersed in modern culture and error and sin and lies and vice. And they out of a filial love for you, want you to be part of that. How hard is it? How hard it must be for a grandparent to tell their grandchild, no. You're living a wicked life. I can't be part of it. Do you have the guts to do that? Because it takes guts. You're willing to shed that emotional blood for the Lord. I mean, I think daily of the number of times that I give in little ways because it's just easier. And then you've got a guy like Thomas More, who was the chancellor of one of the largest kingdoms in the world. And all he had to do was sign a piece of paper when every single person knew that he didn't believe it. Everybody. Nobody thought Thomas More was going to be sincere if he signed that piece of paper. No one. And his daughter pled on her knees, clutching his robes, please, Daddy, don't die. And he wouldn't do it. We have to find the ways in our lives that we are invited to that martyrdom. Because every Christian, ultimately, every Christian who lives a Christian life and dies in the grace of Christ is awarded a martyr's crown. Truly. Because each of us have taken up our cross, our bloody cross, and followed after Jesus. Whether we have some dramatic spurting of blood in the fields of this world, or whether it is our heart that bleeds in secret, the Lord sees, and every drop of blood, no matter how it is shed, is precious to him. See in yourself the heroism of martyrdom. See in your day-to-day life the adventure, the tragedy of martyrdom, and have a hope in your life that if it's lived in its ordinary day-to-day, with all of its ordinary cuts and bumps and bruises which bleed in the secrets of your heart, seen only by God, that each and every day, taking up your cross, you seek to follow after Christ. Each and every day, you deny yourselves the easy road, that you'll be welcomed into the victory of the Lamb who overcame death and offers to each one of us who follow him, like St. Agatha, like St. Thomas More, like the 5 Georgia martyrs, will be welcomed into paradise.